Hello, and welcome to the April edition of Beta Beat, where we talk about all the brand new stuff that has just gone into beta. Today, we're going to be talking about Premiere Pro and After Effects. So my name is Francis Crossman. I'm the principal product manager of Premiere Pro. I've been with Adobe for about 7 years now. Gosh, has it been 7 years? Yeah, just about that. And before that, I was an editor and a colorist for about 10 years in San Francisco. So, no stranger to many hours in a dark room. Victoria, welcome. Tell us about yourself.
Oh, hi everyone. I'm Victoria Nece. I'm the principal product manager for After Effects, and I've been at Adobe for about 8 years. And before that, I was a motion designer in New York, so on the opposite side of the country, but also in production. And I'm really excited about what we're going to do today. We're going to go through, I think, everything we've brought to beta in March.
Yeah, so first, before we jump into the features, let's just do a quick recap and make sure everyone knows what the beta is and how you can get the beta. So if we can go over to my screen, what I want to show is how to get the beta. So first of all, you open up your Creative Cloud app, the one that you download all of the apps from. Go over here to the apps section, click on that, and then go down here where it says beta apps. And once you click on that, these are all the apps that you have available as part of your Creative Cloud subscription. And important to note, these will install side by side with the shipping versions of the app. So if you want to get the Premiere Pro or the After Effects beta, it doesn't overwrite the version that you have installed currently. So you can get early access to new features, you can test things out, and it really helps us make sure that once we finally do release that, we call it the GA version, the general availability version, that it's going to be solid because all of you out there testing are going to give us a much bigger test bed than we could ever do ourselves. But also, we want to hear from you. As you test the features, does it work the way you expect? And so here I have the Premiere beta right here. And you can see by looking up here in the upper right-hand corner, there's a little beaker icon, or some might call it a flask. It's like an Erlenmeyer flask from chemistry. If you open this up, what you're going to see is a list of changes. And so you can go in here and sort of get a sense for what we're working on. And then you can also, like, for instance, enhance speech. You could click on the link here, and then that's going to take you out to the beta forum. And this is where you can give us feedback. And so here, if I scroll down, we'll be able to see that, first of all, there's an explanation of the feature, and then some folks are engaging in the conversation. And this feedback really helps us get the feature right. Also, in addition to that, you can go up here in the beta app, and there's a little provide feedback button. And so if you click on that, you can report a bug, you can request a feature, or you can, visit the beta community, which is that website that I just showed you. Um, did I cover everything, Victoria? Anything else that I should add?
I think that's a pretty good summary. There's a lot coming, and with beta, it's just always worth staying up to date and knowing what's in there so that you can give feedback. Like we really do listen to people's beta feedback, and my favorite thing is someone reports a bug and we can have it fixed the very next day. I love when we can make that happen.
Yeah, that's a really good point because we release new beta updates almost every day. These are, in fact, the nightly builds, the nightly engineering builds. So as our engineers push new code into the main branch, the very next day, you might have access to that code if it's made available to public beta. But okay, so with that, let's jump into the updates for Premiere. Okay, So, first of all, I had to have fun with Firefly. Everyone's
You have
making
to.
AI generated stuff these days. And this is my laser beam rainbow synthwave unicorn on like a super sweet lake or something like that. I don't remember what the actual prompt was. But let's talk about what's new in Premiere. So, here is a wrap up of what we put into beta in the last month. So that's, the previous 30 or so days from today. So we've got new functionality in text-based editing. You can now put markers in the transcript. We have updated proxy functionality where you can actually add a custom watermark. Continuous monitor zoom and pan allows you to zoom into the program and source monitors similar to how you can do in After Effects. And then GPU acceleration for AVC/HEVC in an MXF container. That's a mouthful, but I'll get into why that is important. Anytime we make performance better is a good thing. And then RGB channel viewer allows you to look at the individual channels within your image, red, green, and blue. So let's jump in and go through these one by one. So let's talk about text-based editing, markers in the transcript. So first of all, I'm going to go and enter into my text-based editing workspace. And you saw me just go up to the workspace switcher there. And this gives me a nice big text panel over on the left. And what we're already seeing here, if I just sort of scroll up to the top, is we're seeing some markers here. And this is really handy if you want to listen to your interview and then sort of mark things for, maybe this is a section that you like, you want to come back to. But actually, you know what? Let me back up just a second and make sure everyone is familiar with the text-based editing workflow. So if I load a clip, let's maybe load, this clip. This is just a source clip, and this has been transcribed with speech to text. So when I bring it in, if you're importing new footage, let's say, whatever this is, there's an option over here for enabling automatic transcription. And by the way, I'm in import mode now, if you didn't see me switch very quickly there. You can turn on automatic transcription. It can automatically detect the language. We support up to 17 different languages. This is English. We have the ability to separate the speakers. So if there's multiple people speaking, we can, tell when they're speaking. And then we have a preference here for, do you only want to transcribe clips when they get added to a sequence, or do you want to auto transcribe every single clip in your project? So that's this option here. So I'm not actually going to import because I don't need to right now. I already have some clips. Let's just go back into edit mode. And let me look at this original clip. So this has already been transcribed. Let's go up to the top. And you can see here the speaker labeling. So here's a camera assistant. This is the actual person conducting the interview. Another camera assistant. They're sort of like getting going. And if I drop the playhead here, you'll notice that it navigated to that part in my clip in the source monitor here. And if I just hit the spacebar to play, we're going to hear them speaking, and you'll see the transcript following along.
All right, can you introduce yourself and tell us what you do?
Hi, my name is Journey Wu, and I am a sprinter.
How long have you been?
So this workflow is not new, but what is new is this ability right here to add a marker. And so you can see here that I added this marker. And if I zoom in on the source window here, you can see that I labeled that as the intro. And I have another marker here, intro continued. And of course, you can see my spelling error there, but it's okay. It's just for me. And let's listen to that one.
I've been sprinting for more than half my life, so about 11 years now.
So let's say I wanted this section and I want to add it to my sequence. So I can just up here click this insert button or this overwrite button. And you may notice that these are the common keyboard shortcuts that you're used to. So I'm going to hit comma, and this is going to insert that into my sequence here. And then maybe I want this this little clip here, comma again to insert. And so text-based editing really has revolutionized the way that editors, perform their rough cuts. Because a lot of the time being able to just listen to the transcript and, read the transcript can be a bit faster sometimes than listening through the entire interview. And now with the ability to add these markers, it's going to make that even more convenient. And so you can see here how I can start to kind of build up my rough cut. So this is a really nice addition to text-based editing. And this was a big feature request. So again, harking back to the beta forums, if you go on to the beta forums and leave us feedback, we'll see it. And if we hear it enough times, we're likely to implement that as a feature. And that's exactly what happened here. Enough people told us that they needed to be able to put markers into the transcript that's what we did.
I love this feature. Can I just say this is one of the things I personally really wanted for text-based editing, because you often have a big transcript and there's just that moment of I want to leave myself some notes, and this is how you do that. So I think this is going to really speed things up even more than text-based editing already has.
100%. And also, let me take this as an opportunity to just remind everyone that if you have any questions, please leave them in the chat pod, and we'll try to get to those and answer them live if we can. We're going to be looking out for each other. So while I'm talking, Victoria will be looking out, and then, vice versa. Okay, let's move on. And the next one here is the creation of proxies with a custom watermark. So we've been improving proxies steadily over the last several releases. And again, this is one of those customer requests that just made perfect sense. So first of all, before I get into showing you how to make a proxy with a custom watermark, let's just make sure everyone understands what a proxy is. So a proxy is a lightweight version of your high quality media that has better playback performance. Now, if I look at this sequence that I'm working in here, this is, pretty close to 8K. So pretty massive sequence. And let me just get info or get properties on this media. This is, massive, 7.6K ProRes 4x4. The data rate on this, I think, is around 500 megabytes a second. So,
Yeah.
a lot of hard drives out there and computers would struggle. Now, I happen to be on a pretty beefy machine. And so, I can play it back, smoothly. But if you were on an underpowered machine, or let's say you're working with 12K or like, raw footage or whatever, you're gonna want to make proxies. And so I have made proxies of this first clip, and I can toggle those on right here with the toggle proxies button in the button bar. And by the way, if you don't see this toggle proxies button in your button bar, you can click on this plus button over here and then find it and just drag it into your arrangement. So pro tip there. And of course, you can see all of the other options here, all the other buttons that aren't on there by default. But so let me turn this on. And so now I'm looking at proxies. But the problem is it's not abundantly clear to me that I'm looking at proxies. I do know because this button is lit up, and I know because there's a badge on the clip, but just looking at the image itself, it's a little bit hard to tell. So let me actually zoom in here, like zoom way in, like just really pixel peeping here. And right now I'm looking at proxies. If I turn proxies off, notice how it gets sharp. And then if I turn proxies on again, it gets kind of blurry. So there is a quality difference between the proxies and the high res. When you export, you'll always be exporting off of the high res. But so to solve that problem of just sort of not knowing if you're looking at proxies or something different, we have the ability to add in a watermark, and this is a watermark that Premiere ships with by default. You'll notice that this is the same logo as the toggle proxies button. So now I know that I'm viewing a proxy because it's been burned in when I created the proxy. And if I turn off proxies, that logo goes away. And so now I know I'm viewing the high res. And so that's just peace of mind, nice while you're editing, just to have that little bug right in your face, letting you know exactly what you're looking at. But here, finally, at long last, I'm getting to the actual feature I wanted to talk about, and that's the ability to add in your own custom watermark. So let me reveal this in my project. Here it is. And I'm going to create a proxy using my own custom watermark. So I'm going to right click. I'm going to go down to proxy and then create proxies. So here's what that looks like. Proxy, create proxies. And that's going to bring up this dialog here. Now, this is actually, we've been updating this. This frame size is fairly new that it looks like this. I think it was maybe 2 releases ago that we put in fractional resolution encoding. It used to be some kind of discrete, like low, medium, high settings. And enough people told us that, what they really wanted is just, half or quarter of whatever the size is. So quarter res 8K brings it down to 1920 by 1080, which is still HD. It's still a good size. I'm going to create ProRes QuickTime proxy version of ProRes. And here's where I'm going to choose my proxy file. I can choose the icon, the one that ships by default, or I can actually choose a file. And I'm going to go out to disk and let's see here. Beta beat, April 8th, pictures, proxy bugs. Okay. So this is a, back when I was an editor, I made some business cards and this was like a little logo I designed for myself. I'm sure that you can guess that, as a video editor, what I'm going for here, a little film strip kind of cut into, editing. I made a version of it where it's 20% opacity. And so I think that's going to be a nice one to use. So I'm going to add that. I'm going to choose it. It's going to make the proxy right next to the original high-res media. And when I hit OK, what's going to happen is Media Encoder is going to launch. And then Media Encoder is going to, process this file and attach the proxy. So indulge me while Media Encoder launches. The processing is very quick. Going from ProRes to ProRes is a very quick process. And so here you can see that I've got now the proxy with my little bug on there. And if you ever want to look at the actual file on disk, you can right-click on it, go to proxy, and say reveal in Finder. And then this will take you right to like where that actual file is. This is an actual file on disk that you could, share with somebody if you wanted to. Another use I could see for this is if you're doing client work and you want to hand off, maybe you want to put the files on Frame.io or even like, give your clients a Dropbox link or something like that. This allows you to brand your work so that they can't use it without paying you. So that's kind of a nice thing there. Okay, let's move on to the continuous monitor zoom and pan. And I actually used this in my previous demo when I zoomed in to like really pixel peep those proxies. But this is quite simply, I'm using the scroll wheel, just the scroll wheel on my mouse, and I can zoom in. And, this is a no-brainer. This is one of those things that After Effects has been able to do since dinosaurs were walking the earth, and now Premiere can do it. It's just an obvious thing. So here is a ridiculously high resolution image. I think this is like, 9K, 9.2K, something. It's really big. I got this off of Adobe stock. And so I can zoom in, I can press down on the middle mouse button, or if your mouse has a scroll wheel where you can push down on it, that's the same thing. And you can scroll around and really, do your pixel peeping. And, it's kind of crazy the resolution that is in this image. And then, of course, you can go back to fit. So that's just a nice quality of life type feature. Really handy if you're just trying to like check critical focus, if you're not quite sure, like, is this shot in focus, you can zoom in. Okay, next up, this is the RGB channel viewer. And this one is kind of technical, but I have some green and some blue screen footage here to kind of show it off. And what the RGB channel viewer allows you to do is view the individual channels of your video. So just let me back up and show that there is this wrench menu down in the bottom of the program monitor. And if I click on that, there's a ton of options. But this section right here is where you can change the view. Composite video, that's what you're going to be using probably, 99% of the time, unless you're doing multi-camera, in which case you'd set it to multicam. Comparison view allows you to compare two clips together, but RGBA, red, green, blue, alpha, allows you to choose the individual channels. Okay, so let's go ahead and choose green. And the reason why I chose this particular clip as a demo piece is this is really useful for being able to evaluate green screen footage or blue screen footage. So just looking at the green channel, I can see that the green is quite light. And conversely, if I looked at the blue channel, I would see that the blue is very light. And importantly, in both cases, the human subject, the skin tone, and the wardrobe is very different. So we can see here that this blue would pull a very good key, except that there's quite a lot of blue in the desk here, so we'd probably need to make a garbage mat. And if I was looking at green, we can see that it's fairly different, but maybe a pre-adjustment to really kind of like pump up the jams on the green might help pull a better key. And then if I look at red, we're going to see that, the human skin tone sticks out and is quite different from both green and blue. So it's kind of in the weeds a little bit, but a handy tool. And again, After Effects has had this, forever. Now Premiere does. Okay, to finish stuff up, we're going to get really nerdy here and talk about some GPU acceleration. So,
How many more 3-letter or 4-letter acronyms do you think you can get into this section?
oh my goodness. Yeah, I do have a lot of TLAs, don't I? And for all of you following at home, TLA is just a shorter way of saying 3-letter acronym. Okay, so GPU acceleration for AVC and HEVC, intra and long op in an MXF container. You might think, why do I care about that? Well, why you care about that is that represents the most common formats recorded by the most popular cameras out there. And so we can see these are just some examples. It's not limited to these particular cameras. but good example. And so here's the nerd specs of what all will be accelerated. And possibly the one that sticks out to me the most would be this bottom one, HEVC intra and HEVC long op 422 10-bit on a Mac M1. 422 10-bit HEVC long op happens to be a very popular format. This is a very high quality, and it takes a lot of resources to decode that. So now that that's being GPU accelerated, at least right now on the Mac side, that's a big deal. And let's just look at some charts. So I won't bore you too much with these charts, but the way to read this is gray is the previous version, blue is the new version, and taller is better. So for this particular format, this is UHD 60p 422 10-bit. And this is AVC long hop. I know it's hard to remember all this stuff. We went from being able to play back one stream to 4 streams. So we essentially, 4x'd the performance on this particular flavor. I'm not going to go through every single version here, but here is an example for HEVC 422 10-bit. For example, here's this, now we can play back 8K UHD. So yeah, big performance improvements there. And
before you move on, we've got a question from Alex in the chat. He says,
sure.
So my Canon R3 footage will play back smoother once released or in beta. I'm on an i9.
Remind me, does the Canon does that camera record in an MXF wrapper? I'm not sure that it does.
I don't know offhand.
These improvements are limited to the MXF container. So I'm not totally sure. Let me do a little bit of research, and then I'll come back in the chat and see if I can confirm yes or no on that for you.
Alex says it's C-Log, it's H.264.
Right, but the file extension, is it .mxf or .mov or .mp4? If it records .mxf, then I believe it would be accelerated, but I'm going to confirm that just to be sure. And when Victoria is doing her bit, I'll jump on and do a little bit of research and get back to you.
Cool, sounds good.
And with that, that is actually my last thing that I wanted to show off. So yeah, over to you, Victoria.
Thanks, Francis. That's so much good stuff. I'm so excited for the markers in text-based editing. That's going to make my day better.
Yeah,
the main thing I end up editing with text-based editing is actually demos like this. And it's so nice to not have to listen to your own voice when you're cutting, but you often want to mark sections. And so that's going to be a massive time saver. So let's switch over to After Effects and talk about some of what we have in beta. I have a few things here to show, and this is a project created by Wes on the Substance team. He's done a beautiful job with this, so I'm very excited to get to show this off. And it shows off something that's just come into beta in the last month, but I thought I'd actually go back and start with a couple of things that have shipped since December. So this is a 3D model in After Effects, and for the first time in December, we introduced the ability to bring in true 3D models in a unified 2D and 3D environment all within the app. And that's a huge time saver too, because you don't have to jump between multiple applications when you have changed your model, changed your background, all of those kinds of things. You can just do this all in one place. And so here I've got the kind of thing you might want to do with a 3D model in After Effects. We have a little promo for this watch from Drip, is the fake sports drink brand you'll see lots of Adobe things using. We've got some Drip swag, and this watch is one of the things they want to show off. And you'll see if I hit play here, I've got really good performance. This is not pre-cached. This engine is the Advanced 3D engine, is a gaming style engine It's capable of full real time. It's also capable of crank up the quality and get not real time, but really, really high quality render. So you get this really nice, smooth playback with the engine. It's all on the GPU. It's pretty powerful. So that's advanced 3D. And so what I've just shown you, you've been able to do that since December. This is not the new piece. We have this really nice model though, and we want to make this a little more fun. And just this model in a black background isn't a very exciting scene. So what do we want to do? Let's start by adding some lights. And I'm going to use an EXR file. I'm going to use a high dynamic range image to light my scene. And by default, there is a default environment light in the scene, and the environment light is a new light type that can use EXR and HDR files to create really high quality creative lighting very quickly. Like you can have just one light to light your whole scene this way. And so I'm going to drag this EXR file into my project. And you'll see here it lights up in the background. And this is an actual 360 image. It's a spherical image of a studio. And there's some really bright areas, there's some dark areas. And the way these lights work, the way the environment light works, it's going to wrap this as a sphere around the image. It's almost like you're shining a flashlight through a globe. And where there's bright parts, you're going to get light. And when there's dark parts, you're going to get shadow. So when I set my environment light down here to use this as the source, you're going to see the lighting change on this watch. So twirl open my lighting options, and I'm going to choose this Interior Atelier Soft Daylight light. And so right away, we've got a little bit more of that golden glow here. But the other thing that we get with this light that I love is we get these beautiful reflections on the glass. And so you get this really lovely, very photoreal effect with 2 clicks. I've added a light to my scene, and I've said, use this as my environment light source. And that's all I had to do to get that really, really nice, smooth reflection. So that alone is super powerful. But that's not the new part. There's a new part that's going to make this even more dynamic. And this is the part I'm really excited about. I'm going to twirl open my little sports watch explode thing. This is explode. Now you notice it's not really doing any exploding right now. And this is the new thing that just went into beta, which is I twirl open animation options here, and I'm going to choose this little 1-second animation. And now that's a lot more fun because this model was actually animated. And this is the kind of thing that a client often provides to a motion designer, where there might be some built-in animations ready to go. You might have a laptop that opens and closes if we keep this tech theme. And in this case, we're able to break this out into a bunch of different parts and really show off what's possible here. Now, I've cheated a little bit and already time remapped this, because the coolest part of animated models is you can treat them just like footage. I can retime this, I can trim this, I can move it around in my composition as if it was a video, but I can also move the camera. And if I slow this down, I get smooth motion. It interpolates. It's not like you get frame stepping. You actually get fluid, dynamic motion. So there's a lot of power here. We've had a lot of fun making dinosaurs dance, all kinds of crazy stuff. Animated models unlock a ton of really, really fun workflows. So I'm super, super excited to have this. And just look at, with just unlocking that one piece of animation, how much more dynamic this scene gets. You really get something exciting here. Now, this is After Effects. We don't want just a model in this shot. And I'm not going to show you the full workflow here because we've got a lot of other things to go through. But I am going to finish this off by adding in a simple background. We're just going to grab something that's pre-animated, but you can imagine creating something like this from scratch in After Effects. We're just jumping ahead because we're trying to simplify this a little bit. Let's add in some color correction. Let's go make this look a little more like the purple of the watch. I'm gonna crank this up maybe over like there. Like just adjust this a little bit. Get something that's like a nice soft purple background. So there we go. Now we've got 2D and 3D all in one place. We've got these lovely reflections. We've got animated text. We've got some animated shapes, and we've got an animated 3D model. And that's the part that I'm really excited about here, is we're compositing moving 2D and moving 3D together. So I just think this is a super fun workflow, and I've had a lot of fun playing with this. And this is all in public beta, so you can try out animated models now. This works with GLB and with GLTF files. And if you're using GLB and GLTFs, you can also bring in embedded cameras and lights. It's a pretty cool format because you can have this all in one file that has all of those pieces ready to go. So if you're exporting from a 3D application, you can have the cameras, the lights, the animated model, all there. You can use it actually to bring in pretty much a whole 3D scene. And then you can use that animation in After Effects, extract those cameras and lights, turn them into native cameras and lights, and get a really good jump start on building out your 3D plus 2D scene in After Effects. So lots and lots of 3D power, and there's more coming soon, so stay tuned to beta on that. But I want to talk really quick about something you may have noticed while I've been demoing. And that is that there's a whole new look to After Effects. And I'm going to jump up and show you in my settings under Appearance that we've got some different options than we had before. And I've got to go grab the settings menu off my other monitor. There we go. And there's now new color themes. I can do darkest, dark, or light. I'm going to go into light mode a second. Avert your eyes. It's very bright. Still blows my mind how bright this is. It's blinding. But there's really good reasons for light mode. It's not just an aesthetic thing. Light mode is super helpful if you're working in a bright room, or you're on a projector that's not that bright, or you have lower vision. This makes it much easier to see the app. You can also adjust how much contrast there is. So you can do high contrast bright mode if you need it, or you can reduce contrast, go dark mode, and if you're me, go back to your cave, because I like dark mode of all the things. So all of this is part of a new design system. And you may have heard of this. It's called Adobe Spectrum. And this is a shared design system across the entire Adobe ecosystem. A lot of work has gone into building consistent, familiar components so that if you're on any Adobe surface, you should be able to see things that look familiar, that look the same. You feel a little more oriented. And it's really a great foundation for the future look and feel of the apps. And so you can see here, like the toolbar looks a little different, but we haven't actually moved anything around. So it's still After Effects. Don't worry, there's not massive changes to where it's going to feel totally, totally different. It's more a fresh coat of paint and a lot more accessibility features and a fresh look that's going to be familiar as it rolls out across the entire Adobe ecosystem. So stay tuned for more Adobe Spectrum across all of Creative Cloud. But this is currently in public beta in After Effects. And we'd love your feedback, especially if you're doing things like working with third-party panels. Let us know if there's places where this isn't ready yet, because those are the kind of fixes we really want to make before this goes into the full release. And if you're on Windows, there's another reason that you should take a look at this. And I can't demo this because I'm on a Mac right now, so I'll just talk to it, which is that under the hood, in addition to the fresh coat of paint on the skin of the app, we have a new GPU accelerated UI system. And that means that if you're interacting on Windows, you've got big monitors, you've got a ton of keyframes, all of that, you're going to see a much more fluid experience using After Effects. On a lot of machines, we've seen 4 times faster interaction, and it actually scales. So you're going to see a bigger boost the more pixels you're pushing. So I've seen people say, download the beta just to try this out, because on Windows, this can be a massive difference in your interaction speed. Because the last thing you want when you're moving something around is that jitter or waiting for the app to catch up with you as fast. You want it to go as fast as you're thinking. So we've put a lot of work in behind the scenes to make things faster and more fluid on Windows. Wish I could demo that today. It is night and day, honestly. But I am going to demo one more thing that I'm really excited about. And this is a smaller feature, but I think one that I use constantly since this came out. And that is the ability to copy and paste keyframes across multiple layers. So I'm going to switch to a different demo really quick. We're not going to save our changes. Hey, that looks familiar. More drip sports drinks. So this is, again, part of the same ad campaign where we've got merchandise to go with the drinks. And in this case, we've got this nice little limited time only that's going to bounce on along with the other text. So it's all going to fade in, it animates in, it bubbles on. And now we want to animate this back out. So I'm just going to do a very simple text animation here that's really going to just focus on these 2 layers. If I, in the past, wanted to just duplicate these keyframes, but over here and flipped backwards, I just want to have this animate out the same way it came in. If I hit copy and paste, if I selected these, and hit copy and paste, what would happen is it would duplicate the 2 layers. I'd have to do 1 layer at a time, copy and then paste, and then right click and go to time reverse keyframes. And then I'd have to offset these to match the other ones. Super tedious. And it's something you need to do all the time as a motion designer. So I'm really excited about this feature. What this is going to let me do, first off, is if I select all of these at once on 2 layers, I can hit copy, I can hit paste. They're going to get pasted across multiple layers in the right spot relative to each other. So that's massive time saver first, but there's a new keyboard shortcut and a new menu option that instead of pasting like that is going to let me paste reversed keyframes. And this is now Command Shift V. So we're going to hit Command Shift V. And so now something that took 5 or 6 extra clicks is now just, let's just show you very quickly. We're just fading in and out, but I can do that in copy and paste, and that's it. So this is one of those things that we've wanted to do for a long time. It's finally here, and I think it's a huge time saver. Even if it saves you just a few seconds every time, it's the kind of time saver where it adds up to hours over the years because it's the kind of thing you do constantly. Another small feature that's recently gone into beta is these lovely little color chips. So you no longer just have to memorize peach is this and seafoam's that, and there's 5 different colors of green, and I want green and not dark green. You don't have to go through that anymore. You can just choose a color chip directly. And this is any of the menus that have a color chip. You've now got a visual preview of those. So that's another nice smaller thing that's come in. And I think I've got one more thing, and I'm going to let us switch back to Francis, who's probably had some questions in the chat since then. But the one last thing I'm going to show is another cool 3D thing. And I'm just going to make a new composition for this so that we can get started here. Cool. All my menus are on my other screen. 1 second. There we go. I've made a new comp. And I'm going to go to my libraries panel. And this is another 3D feature that just came in. And that is the ability to bring in OBJ files from Creative Cloud libraries. And now I can open my 3D demos library and I can grab my favorite pigeon and I can bring them into my project. And that'll work. But there's another reason this feature is exciting. And that is that I can also use this to bring in models from Adobe Stock. And the cool thing about Adobe Stock is there are hundreds of free 3D models on there, and you can use them right away, get started very quickly in After Effects. So let's pull our pigeon in. We'll get him ready to go. And again, my menu is on my other screen. There it is. So pigeon is slightly too large. I'm going to click Make Comp Size, and I'm going to say OK. Now, he's standing with his feet at the center of the screen. So I'm going to go up to my view menu and say, look at selected layers. And now I will get nicely framed pigeon. But I can also use this to go to Adobe Stock. And so I'm going to jump out of my library here. And there's a Browse Shared Library and go to Stock and Marketplace option here. If I go to Stock and Marketplace, this will jump me right to the Creative Cloud app. And I'm going to click free because let's look at the free stuff right now. What do we want to search for? You know, I like the stage models that are on here. There's a lot of good, just basic backgrounds. So I'm going to type stage. I'm going to hit search. And it's pulled onto my other screen. 1 second, pull over here. I should be getting a nice Adobe Stock search result of free stuff on stock. But I want 3D, so I'm going to click 3D. And now I've got a bunch of these nice generic 3D stages I could use. Let's use the curtains. These look fun. So you can click download, and this is going to let me download the file directly, but I can also click on this, and I'll just save this to my desktop for now. I can also click on this and choose to add to my libraries. And either way is going to work, but here's the Save to Library button here. And now it's saving it to my 3D demos library. And so instead of having to download the file and unzip it and figure out where I saved it and import it, all of that, I'm just going to jump straight back to After Effects. I'm going to go back to my 3D demos library, and there's my lovely stage curtains ready to go. I'm going to drag them into my project panel, and we're gonna put our pigeon on the stage. Have some fun here. Grab my stage curtains. There's tons of free stuff on stock, tons of fun things to play with. And here's I've now done something very silly. Let's make our curtains a little bit bigger so our pigeon's not clipping them. Our pigeon's a star. And while we're at it, let's add a nice environment light. Sorry, all my menus are on my other screen. Apologies. I gotta go chase them back. There we are. And add an environment light, say okay. And let's grab that exact same HDR file we were using before. Set that. Oh, this is a different one. I grabbed a different studio file. And now we've got more dramatic lighting for our pigeon friend very quickly. You can have a lot of fun with this. Stock models are really great to play with. Oh, we've got a very bright spotlight on our pigeon. Let's turn that down a little. Let's lower that intensity. This light might even be too bright. But you've got control over this. You can adjust these as you go. You can play with the intensity. You can play with the rotation of light if you want to light them up from the other side. Lots of flexibility here to really do fun stuff that you couldn't do before. And the animated models just add so much more potential. And so with that, I think I'm gonna hand things back to Francis, because I'm sure you've had a couple of questions in chat while I've been demoing.
Yeah, there's a big discussion going on about proxies, but really quickly, there were a couple of comments about After Effects. Just some nice comments. Alex said has come a long ways since I was doing 3D stuff back in 2013. The performance I'm seeing here is impressive. So that's a really nice comment. Thank you, Alex.
I will say the new engine is some really powerful technology in there. And you can tune it to be super, super fast. One thing I didn't demo is we have Draft 3D mode. And if you click that Draft 3D button, it'll turn off all the stuff that might slow things down. And you'll really get actually often faster than real-time interaction. It makes things super, super fast. So you can do the thing you do in a lot of other 3D apps where you have draft mode and final mode and you're constantly previewing. You can do that in After Effects too. Or you can just set the settings a little lower while you're working and then crank things up for final export. I often find I don't need to crank things up too high to get a result that is actually good enough to use. And so you can get really nice performance. And this engine is shared with a couple different Adobe apps. It actually started in Adobe Aero. So there's a lot of Adobe 3D goodness built into Advanced 3D.
Yeah, that's great. One of the benefits of working at a big company like Adobe, where we've got a lot of different stuff going on, we can leverage technology developed by other teams to improve, our apps. So, okay, I'm looking at the comments and the questions. I feel like we were able to sort of answer all the proxy related stuff, just sort of in the chat there. But just for a quick recap, some of the questions that were asked were, like, do I have to make proxies in Premiere? Can't I just go and make proxies in Media Encoder without having Premiere open? And you can totally do that. There's nothing super special about what's going on. So in this particular example, I just dumped a bunch of files in here. I set them to ProRes proxy, and they're all going to a common location. And then inside Premiere, I chose these clips and I just attached them. Actually, if we could go back to my screen for a second, I can give a really quick run through of this. So let me just back up. Ah, cool. Let me just back up a second here and just show that you can put the files, directly into Media Encoder in, the normal way. Just drag them out of your Finder and put them in there. And then you can choose a proxy preset and it'll make the files and just put them on disk. And then in Premiere, you can, multi-select the clips, right click, go down to proxy and choose attach proxies, and then navigate it to your files. Now, there's a couple of tricks here, though. You might notice that the proxies have an _1 at the end. If that's the case, the file name is different from the original, and that might be actually a good thing. In that case, what I've chosen here for the match file properties is I chose just to match the media start to match the time code. And that way, once I find that first file and click OK, let's see here, it's going to be this one. It'll attach the other ones. And so now those are all attached. So there's a lot of different ways you can handle proxies, and proxies will definitely help you get performance that allows you to kind of punch above your weight, so to speak, if your machine is not super beefy. Um, yeah, I think that pretty much covers the questions around proxies. Victoria, do you think we should try to show one more thing?
Ooh, do you have one more thing in mind?
The Firefly EXR lights? What do you think?
Ooh, yeah, I think we've got time to do that. And you know what? Let's have some extra fun here and do this in honor of the eclipse. So
Okay, so
one
let's go
second.
back over to Victoria's screen and we're gonna look at a cool 3D thing.
Yeah, I'm gonna do this in Firefly on the web. So I've shown you a couple of image-based lighting image sources that were photographs of real world places. But one of my favorite things to do with Firefly, and one of the things I find most useful, is I can use it to create an endless variety of totally wild, creative lights that aren't something you could shoot in the real world. My favorite one is still something that is called something like Neon Party and gives everything crazy rainbow reflections. You can have a lot of fun with this. Let's see. What do we want to say here? First off, I like to start by prompting it with I want a 360 image. And there's actually enough in the training set that I can actually get something approximating a 3D image. I can get something that's pretty close to a 3D image. Sometimes they work right out of the box. So let's say um, spherical projection, equirectangular image, 360, HDRI. Just throw in basically all the buzzwords you can think of to get one of these. And then let's prompt this with something. Francis, where should we put the eclipse?
Oh wow. Mexico?
Oh, let's see. Over a beach in Mexico. Let's try it. I'm gonna hit generate. And it's also important to switch to 16:9. And I find I get much better results when I say photo. So I'm going to hit all of those, hit generate. And I've got to regenerate because I need my widescreens. And
Pretty amazing that Firefly is able to generate these type of images. They're so specific.
that's true. And while I'm doing this, I'm going to load up Photoshop so that I can make a couple quick adjustments here. I've got a couple. This one, I feel like it's not doing the eclipse thing. Giving me a really nice beach. And I don't hate that. These are nice beaches. But I did want an eclipse. So I might grab one of these and I'm going to download this. But I think I'm going to, let's see, total solar eclipse, darkness on a beach in Mexico. Let's try that. And I find sometimes it misses one or two words out of the prompt and you kind of just have to emphasize those. So let's see what we get this time. All right, now we're getting a little bit of darkness. Man, it doesn't want to give me an eclipse. That's funny. I've done it before and I've gotten a really good one. What if we say lunar eclipse? See what we get. We can at least get a nighttime beach. Come on. Give me an eclipse. No. All right, so we got no beaches at night, but let's use the beach during the day. That one's kind of cool. Let's grab that one too. So what you can do with these once you've downloaded them is I actually like bringing them into Photoshop, and I'm going to open these both up. Let's grab these off my desktop. And what I tend to do is start by offsetting them so that halfway off, then you'll see there's sort of a seam in the middle. And then I use generative fill to fill in the seam. So let's just select a little bit of space around that. That looks pretty good. And just gonna hit generative fill. Not even gonna prompt it here. We're just filling in that seam. And that's gonna just take a second. Progress bar. There we go. And let's get which one looks the best. That looks pretty good. That looks pretty good. Oh, let's go for that one. I'm gonna then flatten this out. Whoop. Undo select variation. Wait, what did I do there? That was weird. First thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go down here, flatten that out. I'm gonna re-offset it again, so we're back where we were. And I'm going to then switch my mode to 32-bit because we really want that high dynamic range. And I'm gonna save as an OpenEXR, save that. And then when we jump back to After Effects, let's bring this here. Let's bring this in from the desktop. Oh, we got only about 15 seconds. Oh, I'm not sure I've got time. Oh, I didn't click OK on my other screen. Ah, speed HDRs. Can we do it? We're gonna try. All right, we're gonna drop that in. We're gonna switch to our Firefly light, and hopefully we've got our pigeon on the beach. And with that, I think we are out of time. So thanks everyone for joining us today. This has been a lot of fun. And stay tuned for more good stuff coming in beta.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Thanks for engaging in the chat, and keep on downloading that beta. See the hot new stuff.